Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Jamal Simon.
And I'm Antonia Velez, and it's just the two of us today.
Just the two of us.
He told me he was going to do that.
I did. That was pre-planned. Thank you. It was supposed to seem like an authentic moment. Well, it was authentic, because it is just the two of us. And copyright strike. No, but we have a lot to get into. We know the two huge stories right now. Of course, the race for president and the Olympics.
Yeah,
politics
and everything,
and sports.
Yeah, everything in between. We are going to get to all of it, but let's start with the newest and maybe even biggest news of this week. After becoming the United States' very first female vice president, Kamala Harris made history yet again as her Democratic presidential nomination became official, making her the first woman of color to represent a major party in presidential elections. Now, 5 days into an online balloting process, the Democratic Party announced Monday night that 99% of delegates had voted for Harris. Tuesday morning, Harris announced she'd picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate, and the pair made their debut as the 2024 Democratic ticket at a rally in Philadelphia. The 60-year-old father of two served 24 years in the Army National Guard and was a public school teacher before starting his political career in 2006 when he was elected to Congress.
Minnesota's strength comes from our values, our commitment to working together, to seeing past our differences, to always being willing to lend a helping hand. Those are the same values I learned on the family farm and tried to instill in my students. I took it to Congress and to the state capitol, and now Vice President Harris and I are running to take those very values to the White House.
He was in Congress for 12 years before becoming governor of Minnesota in 2018 and was re-elected in 2022. He's known for several progressive policies, including establishing a child tax credit, creating a paid family and medical leave program, making college tuition free for students whose families earn less than $80,000 a year, and protecting abortion access in Minnesota post-Roe.
All right, and on the other side of the race for president, fallout for the Trump campaign hasn't seemed to stop since the former president sat down for a panel at the annual National Association of Black Journalists conference last week. Trump is facing backlash for several comments, but mainly the ones he made when questioning Vice President Kamala Harris's blackness.
I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir.
All right, that comment drew harsh criticism from both the White House and the vice president. Harris actually responded while speaking to members of a historically black sorority in Texas.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
This was just one of many tense moments, so here's a look at how the panel began.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. Now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Despite the criticism, Trump is calling that interview a win. He posted to Truth Social saying that the questions were, quote, rude and nasty, but he says he, quote, crushed it. So there's lots and lots and lots to talk about here. First, I would love to say, well, to his point, he said he was invited there, and I do believe if you're inviting someone to be a part of your panel, you should be respectful. For sure, you don't have to agree with what they're saying, but you should be respectful. So yes, I'm going to say that now. Two, from what I watched, I didn't see anything disrespectful happening.
Absolutely not.
I feel like you're a presidential candidate, and like we're not necessarily there for niceties. We're here to get answers. And I feel like that should be expected, especially for someone who's already spent a term in the White House. So what the journalist asked was, she said, you said this, 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 and this. These are quotes from you.
Right.
Now, it's a valid question to ask, like, with all of that out there, what do you plan to do? Like, how do you plan on addressing that to make sure that, to like get Black voters on your side?
Absolutely. It's just a matter of keeping, especially like you said, he's already had a term in office.
Yeah.
So it's also kind of part of keeping people accountable, people who have represented our country and potentially could again.
Yeah.
So it's not just an opportunity to ask questions which were based in fact. Those were all things that he has actually said, but also like keeping him accountable and like giving him the space and the opportunity to be like, own up to his actions and like kind of give an explanation. But there was nothing of the sort from that.
And I would expect, like, not only from Trump, I don't care who the political candidate is. I feel like you have to be ready to answer tough questions. Like, if Kamala Harris were there, I know there are a lot of Black voters who aren't necessarily too excited about her because of, during her time as a prosecutor, she incarcerated many Black men. And like, I don't know, but I imagine Black journalists would want to ask about that.
Absolutely.
And you have to take accountability for that, because I feel like I'm not a political expert, but I am a voter, I'm a citizen. So I feel like as a voter and a citizen, I want to see either candidate, both candidates, anyone involved being able to fess up to it, say like, hey, you know what, I take accountability for this. This is how I've grown. I'm so happy to forgive somebody if they put in work and action and, you know, say like, listen, like I may have done this in the past, but you know what, this is what I'm doing to fix that. I was wrong, this is what I'm doing to fix that, and this is what I'm gonna do to get your vote.
Right, but to say that was rude is just like completely, I don't know, it's just kind of like a cop-out. Like,
yeah, it was like, he was
avoiding
like, yeah, I said those
answering the
things,
question.
but how dare you say that? How dare you hold me accountable? It's so rude, so nasty. You invited me here. Actually, you were an hour late. I was like, that is not what I asked you, sir.
I thought you were going to play one of those sound bites of him. I actually, like, everything stopped for me when I heard that. I was like, the audacity.
When he said that he was the greatest thing to happen to Black people since Abraham Lincoln, or the greatest presidents, which has a whole other storied history that we simply do not have the time to get to right now. He was also asked about Sonia Massie, who was a woman killed by police in Illinois, and they were asking, they said like one of his things that he was told him was that he would provide immunity for certain police officers from prosecution, and they were asking, would you grant immunity to that officer?
Right.
And he was like, well, I don't know. I didn't like what I saw. I don't know enough about the case. I don't know, but it's neither here nor there. But that was a very interesting response. But speaking of Sonia Massie, the former deputy who shot and killed her says that he misinterpreted the situation and feared for his life. So back in July, Massie called police to her home for help. During the call, an officer asked her to remove a pot of boiling water off the stove. While holding the pot, Sean Grayson backed out of the way out of fear that Massie would, quote, throw water on him. So to that, she said, quote, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Something that Grayson now says that he interpreted it to mean that she was going to kill him. He also added that when he drew his pistol and Massie ducked behind the counter, he moved fearing that she was going to grab a weapon. So that's when he shot her. Now Grayson is facing first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and official misconduct charges. Right now, Massie's family is also calling for the Sangamon County Sheriff to step down, with Illinois' governor also questioning how Grayson was hired in the first place, given his criminal history, which includes 2 DUI convictions.
And tension in the Middle East is rising as Israel is being blamed for the strike that killed Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran's capital, and for authoring the assassination of Fawad Shakur, a senior commander of the Iranian-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah in Beirut last week. Hezbollah and Israel had already been exchanging strikes frequently over the past 10 months, and the assassinations have only intensified the conflict. Iran has also promised to retaliate. Meanwhile, as the U.S. increases its military presence in the Middle East, diplomatic efforts are underway as world leaders fear widespread conflict at the regional level, though Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country is already in a, quote, multi-front war with Iran. In Gaza, as Israeli attacks continue, AP reports the only entry for humanitarian aid in the south has been shut down due to fighting in the area, worsening the Palestinian territory's humanitarian crisis. Gaza's death toll nears 40,000, according to local health officials. And after Venezuela's highly anticipated presidential elections, entrenched incumbent Nicolás Maduro was declared the winner, while the opposition insists its candidate, Edmundo González, obtained the majority of the votes. Despite refusing to release voting tallies, the Venezuelan National Electoral Council, which is loyal to the governing party, says Maduro got 6.4 million votes and González got 5.3 million, per the Associated Press. On Friday, the opposition released more than 80% of tally sheets. Using the data released, AP analyzed the equivalent of 10.26 million votes, concluding that González received 6.8 million votes and Maduro only got 3.1 million, which would mean González beat Maduro's bid for a third 6-year term by a landslide. One day after the Organization of American States failed to reach a consensus to push Venezuelan authorities to release the vote count, the U.S. Department of State issued a statement recognizing González as the winner of the presidential election, adding weight to the international pressure on Maduro. Now, a lot of Venezuelan people have gone to the streets to protest the announced results of the election, as well as the state that the country has been in for years and years and years. The economy has been in decline for a long time. It's been a single-party rule for 25 years. And with that, there's been a lot of arrests happening. It's important to note, though, that the governing party has made it so it has control of a lot of spheres, governmental spheres, including the judicial branch and the armed forces, which includes the military and, of course, the police. And so it would make sense, quote unquote, that people are being silenced for going out in the streets and protesting.
Yeah, that was the first thing I heard when I was reading all of this, because I'm not well versed on international politics and governments. I was like, are there not different checks and balance systems here? In America, I don't think that we could ever see that, because there are certain systems in place to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right. The historical context is crazy. I'm also not a geopolitical expert, but essentially what's happened, like I said, it's been 25 years of this governing party, and Nicolás Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez, they have both kind of made it so the governing party has very little or a very weakened checks and balances system. The Supreme Court is kind of backed by the governing party, so is the police, military, like I said. And so there is very little that can be done to kind of keep the commander-in-chief in check, so to speak.
Check him.
So yeah, it's very sad to see, and I think it's important that we talk about this and keep talking about this, because it's very clear that the Venezuelan people are tired of everything that's happening, and it's more just a matter of humanitarian, a humanitarian crisis. I think the Venezuelan exodus, the amount of people who have left Venezuela, which surpasses 7 million, I think, by a lot, is, I'm pretty sure, the largest Latin American exodus in Latin America's recent history. And that just goes to show that people are just not receiving everything that they need to have a dignified life. In addition to that, I kind of want to go back to the silencing of civilians who are going out and protesting the elections and the current governing party and Maduro as president. This has not only happened with civilians, it's also happened with potential and actual political candidates. Maria Corina Machado, who is the leader of the opposition currently, was banned by the Supreme Court earlier this year for running for president. This has happened with multiple other political candidates in the past. Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor, also made that happen with other political candidates. And it's just a testament or a proof that there's a lot of silencing going on, and there is very little opportunity and space for change to happen, even when negotiations have taken place. To kind of not stretch this on a lot longer, the U.S. had negotiated with Venezuela, saying that they would ease some sanctions that were hurting their economy further. Their economy was very dependent on oil, and so some of these sanctions had to do with oil, in return for Venezuela promising to make a path to pave a way for free and fair elections. Venezuela agreed, and then the Maria Corina Machado banning her from running for president took place. And even though she is still at the forefront of the opposition, again, it's just an example, a very clear example of the lack of transparency, honesty, and fairness that is taking place in the Venezuelan government right now, and that has been taking place, unfortunately, for more than 20 years.
Whew, very well versed.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for, no, that's so good. I feel like people need to know that, and I'm actually surprised that people in America aren't talking about it more. I know that, sometimes people don't really care about things unless it impacts them directly. Well, things that are happening in Venezuela can and will impact the U.S. directly.
I mean,
so
yeah, and it's also just it kind of gives people, I know there's a lot of negative connotations tied to Venezuelan refugees or immigrants from Venezuela, and it's just kind of y'all, do a little research as to why people are fleeing. It's not because it's not out of choice. It's out of necessity.
Yeah. So we will continue to follow this. We'll be bringing you guys updates, letting you know what's going on. I feel like right now, most of the country or most of the world right now has been distracted by the Olympics. There's a new headline every single day.
Every single day. And I'm not mad about it. I don't consider myself to be a sports person per se, but a lot of exciting things have happened.
A lot of exciting things, a lot of what some would call problematic things. There's been lots of celebrations, lots of things. I know the biggest thing I saw, lately was the Algerian boxer.
Yes.
Imane Khalif, correct. I believe that, so many different news organizations have had to issue corrections because they started referring to her as a transgender woman when in reality, according to birth records, she was born a woman, assigned female at birth. And a lot of people there's been this huge outcry. People like J.K. Rowling have talked about how she's in the women's boxing for the Olympics. Elon Musk they're really trying to make it a huge thing. And I'm first of all, can we get our facts correct? I was this woman is a woman, and I feel like transphobia has truly evolved to where even cisgender women aren't even safe if you have any masculine characteristics whatsoever.
Right, and I that is one thing, get your facts straight. Correct. And J.K. Rowling literally put it to rest. I really cannot with that woman. But on the other hand, she was receiving so much hate. They were straight up cyberbullying her. And I can only imagine what a young woman who is already in a kind of very stressful situation could be feeling and experiencing when seeing all the barrage of just people spewing hate. It's just, I know she's also come out and said that if there's one thing to take from this situation is to remember be careful what you say. The impact that this can have on a person is horrible. And so I just feel, it's just.
And just for a little context, they did say that they took some sort of test or something, and she tested and had increased levels of testosterone, which so many things can cause that.
And it does not
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Hormone imbalances, whatever, but kind of wild, kind of crazy. Check yourself. But there's also been lots of fun, good, really kind of kooky, crazy things happening, with gymnastics. Simone Biles, Jordan Childs, Rebecca Andrade.
Yes!
Rebecca came through at that gymnastics floor final, stole the gold, snagged the gold from Simone, but that was the first time, all three of them were on the podium, that was the first time that 3 Black women have taking the podium.
I thought that was just such a beautiful moment in history. And going back to Simone Biles, I saw her in kind of one of the press conferences. I just love, even though they are competing against each other, the admiration that they have for each other. Talking about
she was talking about how she was like, oh well, I remember one where she was like, I'm tired of competing against Rebecca. I'm getting scared.
Rebecca, she said that she was like, for the first time ever, she was like, I'm actually stressed for this competition. Like, she is a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, and when she got the gold, like Simone and Jordan bowed down to her. I mean, like, I love the camaraderie that I'm seeing. I've never seen Simone, and everyone really just smiles so much and just have such a good time. And also, we know she took a break because she wanted to focus on her mental health. And since like the Olympics started, like every interview, she's like, I'm seeing my therapist every Thursday. I make sure to, take moments to like remind myself of why I'm here and to not attach what she does to who she is.
Right.
So, and you can tell right now, just because she prioritized her mental health, that she's like back and better than ever. Kind of iconic.
Yeah, and it's also just like a testament that just because you struggle with your mental health does not mean that you can't be good at what you do, or that you can't be strong or iconic or fabulous or beautiful.
Yep. So shout out Simone. Thank you so much.
Shout
mental
out
health
Simone.
matters. And there's been so many other moments. There's been so many other accomplishments, but I feel like it keeps happening. Right now, it's still happening.
I know.
So.
Well, one thing that I was really, really happy to see, and I'm very proud of, was Angel Baras, a gymnast from Colombia. He was the first Colombian gymnast, period, to win an Olympic medal, and also became the youngest South American to win an Olympic medal. He won silver, and it was just like a huge deal for Colombia. I know a lot of other countries have had their first, and it's just like super inspiring to see that, just seeing that on the screen and seeing people clapping and them crying and like everyone just being so proud is just like so heartwarming.
I feel like the Olympics are just like such an amalgamation of culture and just like seeing everything on display. I know another thing that some people were upset about was having drag queens perform at the opening ceremony. And I'm like, listen, people.
Oh my God.
Well, they were saying like towards the end they were mocking Christianity or religion, or it was insane or something. I don't know. I was like, we don't even know that it was the Last Supper that they were trying to depict. I feel like, and even if it were, I was like, the Last Supper has been depicted in so many forms of media, like in so many movies, art, television shows, and like we never see this level of, I mean, granted, this is on a global stage, so sure, there's more eyes on it. But I mean,
at some point you have to be like, okay, this is a stretch, and you're kind of like using this as an excuse to kind of dog on queer people.
Yes, and like I feel like drag is a global art form.
Exactly.
It's very representative of what the Olympics is all about. So
absolutely.
Whatever. I thought it was lovely. I thought it was a good time. And
me too. And a lot of good news came from the Olympics. But here's some more good news. A queer win. Chapelrone, aka your favorite artist, reportedly broke a music festival record. The gay pop superstar's Thursday Lollapalooza performance was the biggest daytime set the festival has ever seen, according to a Lolla spokesperson.
Right, and a major medical breakthrough out of Germany. A man has likely been cured of HIV. It's a medical milestone only achieved by 6 other people in the more than 40 years since the AIDS epidemic began. The man was treated for acute myeloid leukemia with the stem cell transplant in October 2015. He stopped taking his antiretroviral drugs in September of 2018 and remains in viral remission with no rebound. So of course,
we love to hear that.
They're like, with each year that they don't see any more cells, it's like, okay, we might be taking a step further. And when I talked about this news, they were like, well, why are they gatekeeping? Why aren't they, doing this for everybody? I'm like, well, it's very costly and it's still in the trial phases, and I'll just take this bit of good news in stride.
Take it as a W.
We're taking the steps, and I actually kind of love to see it. We love really smart scientists here.
We love really smart scientists, and we also love the queer community.
We also love gay pop.
We also love gay pop.
We also love gay pop. I mean, I'm so happy to see what Chapelrone has been doing. Like, kind of an icon, kind of a legend.
And we also know that lots of queer artists were nominated for the VMAs. Megan Thee Stallion, SZA, Billie Eilish, to name a few. So
this is the summer of gay pop, guys.
It is the summer of gay pop.
That's your homework assignment. Go out and listen to some gay pop. We got Troye Sivan, we got Charlie XCX, we got Chapelrone, listen, Billie Eilish. You can do it. I believe in you.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation next week right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.